Janbask training. Learn and grow.
Welcome to training 3, the BA training. Today we'll be talking about more about stakeholders, the onion diagrams, the power influence metrics, RACI metrics, and what do you mean by personas. That's one step more to understand your stakeholders better. Because now in the previous two classes, we talked about model, we talked about MOM, and now we will be talking more about step by step because MMs you have started preparing in models you have talked about it, different models you talked about it. You talked about agile, you talked about waterfall, you talked about RAD, you talked about B model. Now it's time to now start interacting with stakeholders. So being as a BA, you are new to any job, you have been newly joined any organization or one or the other way. Now you're gonna start interacting with stakeholders in order to gain requirements or to understand what the client wants. Okay. So stakeholders. Stakeholders, first of all, need to understand anyone who getting affected, impacted by the project, by its deliverables are stakeholders. That's a generic statement, first of all. Okay. Anyone associated to the project, anyone getting impacted by the projects, its profitability, non-profitability, right? Any way out, right? Some may getting credit of it, some needs to get like promotions by it, some needs to show it as a sales, some needs to show it as a anything else, everyone related to that project, whereas it should be interest, it should be political, it should be physiological, it should be academic. Anyway, if anybody is involved, he is part of the project and he will be called or he or she will be called as a stakeholder. Okay. Now, stakeholders are further divided into two major categories. Although there are like hundreds of categories, but on a major level, stakeholders are basically divided into two major categories that are internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Okay. And now on internal stakeholders, all the persons related to project, related to company are all internal stakeholders. Because being as an employee, it's your responsibility to be part of like the success of the project. BA needs to be like he has to successfully delivered. SME has to take care that he's purely delivered. Being as a CEO, he's an internal stakeholder because he needs to adhere the clients and get everything successfully delivered for his project to get some funds from them. They will be sourced by funds from the client. So all those things are part of the internal stakeholders. So they have interest to it. Now the point you bring it up, CEO. Yes, he is a stakeholder and he is an internal stakeholder. And by that, it doesn't mean that if he's not going to involve, he's not a stakeholder. He may or may not be involved. That's first thing. He may be keeping up in all CC or the BCCs of the emails, or even if it's not put it up in all those, he is one of the stakeholders of that particular project internally because that is going to bring them the revenue, that's going to impact their images, and being as a CEO, it's important from them to handle their individual clients. Whether they are involved or whether they are not involved, they are part of the projects. So you must have seen certain projects in every company where the CEO is even fully involved because that are something the high impacted projects where he thinks so his understanding or he needs to be present. Whereas there are other projects where he not need to be present, but he is getting daily updates from their respective subordinates or managers that what is the progress going around that. So all of these guys, team members, everyone is part of the internal stakeholders. Got it? So now, as I mentioned, on a very high level, we have divided out into two categories of like internal and external stakeholders, right? Internal are anyone who is part of your company, meetings are all part of internal stakeholders. Anyone outside the organization, when I'm saying outside the organization means sponsors, clients, third party, are all your external stakeholders. Okay, so this is the difference between internal and external first. Now, within external and internal stakeholders, you need to decide upon and how you're going to do it. That will be depend upon your multiple discussions you're going to get into. You will be seeing in the in your few first meetings like the kickoff meetings or your initial phases of meeting who is holding what designation and who is like making decision making things, and you need to further recheck with the clients or like your other team members that who holds what responsibility and for sign-offs whom I need to get in touch with. So this is how you're going to differentiate upon primary and secondary stakeholders as well. We're going to do one activity. By that, you're going to identify, right, who all the right stakeholders, who will not be, how you gonna identify. There are some techniques to do that. I'm gonna help you understand that as well. But on a high level, we have like internal and external. Within internal and external, you need to even identify who are primary, who are secondary as well. And with the help of your discussions, your knowledge, and your discussions level, you need to understand who holds what responsibility and how much effort they are putting in, and what is their like board categories, what is their responsibility that's part of it. Moving on. What is the importance of stakeholders? Without the ongoing participant stakeholders, it's hard for a company to survive, as company stakeholders are mutually independent. So stakeholders are mutually interdependent on one or the other, because that holds an interest in the company, that holds to bring up the revenue, that holds to bring the money to be there, that holds to bring some publicly out your company's image in the market. Thus, the stakeholder engagement is important, helping company express its value, missions, develops, improve the relationship, and continue the business. We have seen, we are talking even about the mission, vision that should come from our implementation that we talked in the first one, where we talked about most analysis, right? Mission, vision, and everything we talked about. So it should even reflect in our working culture. Other than that, all stakeholders needs to be involved, need to be well aware about what we are doing, how we are doing, where we are. All these MOMs all are even important part of getting all these things done. Okay, so now once how we need to identify who are our stakeholders, always when the project initiates, there is a meeting called a kick-off meeting. So this word has come in from FIFA, right? Or you can say rugby. Both of the sports start with a kick. When a football match started, the ball has been put down in the center of the circle, right? And you need to kick, any of the team needs to kick on it, and with that we initiate the match. Similarly, the first meeting or like the first few meetings are called as the kickoff meetings. So that is how we're gonna initiate the call with clients, or you can say it as stakeholders. So that's why it's called it as a kickoff meeting. So now with the kickoff meeting, we initiated the meeting. We have the agenda, everything is there. Started talking about it. We're gonna talk about more about project, what the client want. They're gonna give you some understanding if they're gonna have any brochures, details, projects, any previous talk, any search information, any research information they have, or one or the other information, whatever they have in place. They're gonna all share it with you guys. In that meeting, now you need to start analyzing who is speaking about what, who is most speaking about approvals, most speaking about documentation, who is giving us solutions, who is talking more about technical terms. So this is how you're gonna start creating a picture in your mind. Although I'm not saying these by that picture you need to assume that everybody is gonna be doing what you think so. It's not correct. But that's certain ways of attention. Because being as a BA, don't think you wanna write everything or document everything. No, that's not even possible, because within a 1 hour meeting, whatever every second is being saying, you can't document that. So you need to be smart enough. You need to be asking right questions so that it's clearly articulated that who will be doing what position he holds, who will be the main clients, who are the supporting ones, who are sponsors, who are external clients, who are the third party persons. That all need to be defined in that meetings. And that's not going to be the only first meeting that only you're going to do it. You will be getting multiple chances of doing it, and above that you can get it assured from the client itself by dropping an email. So first the question arises like how we want to identify the stakeholders. So one of the best methods that's been used out is onion diagram. So since everybody must have seen the onion, I'm assuming that, so it has multiple layers. Similarly, the onion diagram even have multiple layers. So and then onion diagram indicates how the clients are involved with respect to the solutions, which stakeholders directly interact, which participate, and which all have the larger organization viewpoint from the organization. So you've seen with working with an ideology of like who are involved as a stakeholder with a solution, who are directly interacting, who are just providing them solutions. So we are managing them into categories, who are providing them solutions, who are talking about the directly interacting, who are not directly interacting, who are talking from the purpose of involvements, who is not talking from the purpose of involvement, but is only talking about the sales, right? There are few that will be only acting as a mediator. So you need to analyze that. Or if you have prior information before even jumping onto the calls, you can have prior internal discussion with your sales team, with your marketing team that, hey, who all guys will be there, who will be holding responsibility. If there will be any questions around those, who I need to reach out. all those things you need to get yourself pre-prepared before getting into that meetings. So in this onion diagram, you have seen these four layers. So you will be seeing first we are looking at the solution delivery. So you've seen the project teams and other directly involved in creating the solutions are all part of the solution delivery. Next layers talks about affected organizational units. End user, help desk, and other work changes affected the solution is delivered. Once the solution, whatever you've created, it's delivered in the second layer, all will be impacted by that will be coming as affected organizational units. Third is comes as organization or enterprises. Sponsors, executives, domains, interacts with the defected groups are all organization enterprises. Finally, the last is affected external stakeholders. Customers, suppliers, regulators are all external stakeholders. So see, external, internal, organizational, all are stakeholders, all are involved over here. But under what layer, what of them are there, that defines. If they are, we are talking about external, these are the customers, suppliers are external. If I talk about organization, these are organization peoples. End users are affected organizations. And when we are talking about solution, that will be the internal team. So now you have seen, you have on a high level have defined who falls under what bracket. But now the question going there in your mind is like, hey, what about Dan if we're going to have individual persons? How are we going to do that? So for that, let me tell you how you need to smartly do that. So using the same onion diagram, this is how you need to create your circle. You will be creating your onion on the same base circle. Let me make it more smaller. It's better now. Okay. So see, what we have done is we have created the four layers only, right? So just take a look, the internal application. The application remains the same. We created some application. Now see, the system, what we mentioned in our previous slides, affected organization units. And who will be responsible for the solution delivery? The affected organization units. Who are those? Team projects and other directly involved in creating the solution. So take a look. We have developers, PM, operators. These are all the ones who are involved. Now, over here, since I mentioned on a high level that developers are their PM, you can explicitly name them up. Right. Over here, you can write it up. Kamlesh. Over here, it's Martin. Over here, it's like Om. So these three peoples are involved from the system side. Either you can mention their lead's name even. That is even fine. That from QA, we're going to have Om. From developers, we're going to have Kamlesh. And from PMB, we're going to have Amanat or Martin. So these three guys are responsible from their leads prospect, from the system prospect. Any questions going to be, we need to route out to these leads. One, we are done with the first layer. Let's move on to the next orange layer. You're seeing the containing systems, the users, admins, support staff, these are all involved of it. So by users, we're going to have external users, internal users, admins, UATs are all coming under this part. So over here also you can write out these names. And at the last, we have the wider environment, the supplier, customer, public, consultants, regulators, financial institutions or beneficiaries, bankers involved, customers, suppliers are all the external stakeholders. This is how you're going to add their pictures and you're going to simply write down their names. If you have outside names, we can add it up. Anyone like Kamra is there. We're going to have like Itmer is there. Ashwani is there. That's going to be acting as a external stakeholders. So this is how with this ring of onion diagrams, you're going to help understand what stakeholder represent what and how they are associated. Okay, so moving on to the next. There is another way out for identifying the stakeholder is using the wheel diagram. Over there, we're going to talk about what all the stakeholder structures are there, right? So there is nothing we are doing in this wheel. It's just like we are creating certain brackets and each bracket we are putting up their names, like who all the suppliers are. This wheel is being used out when we have a super high big project where we don't think like only you external stakeholders and some third party are involved. This happens for projects like when you're creating Amazon like things where you have suppliers, regulators, employees, managers, owners, competitors, customers, partners, and the transit applications. Multiple dependencies are there where you can't simply work on like creating something and you're going to get it done, where your dependencies like first you need to check with regulators, employee needs to be checked it up, manager approvals, then an owner, then who will be our competitors, price range, who is the end customers, how that gonna go, where we gonna have warehouses, how we gonna partner with them, where our product needs to be there, who gonna supply it, and finally it goes out. What all the regulations will be involved. So in such bigger projects, we're gonna use this wheel diagram and putting it up under different brackets. And whatever the dependencies you have, depending upon that, you're gonna increase the brackets as well. It right now I can see only like 8 of them. You can increase it to 10, 12, depending upon what a sort of dependencies or process you have identified. So that's the wheel diagram. And under each bracket, who all are your point of contact or who all will be involved under that. So you're going to simply add the diagram nature and you're going to do it. Or you're going to simply add the name over here saying that, okay, there is one person called like Dan who's responsible for suppliers. There's someone from regulators who is like our point of contact. And this is how we're going to identify the wheel structure. Now, when we are having such discussions, we need now to be very conscious or clear about who will be having power influential matrix, who are having more powers and interest to the project, and how we're going to do that. With the help of discussions, with the help of understanding, we're going to understand who holds more power, who is holding more decisions. So this matrix is there, power interest matrix. The stakeholders are grouped according to their powers and level of efforts. The interest of the stakeholders: high power, low power, high interest, and low interest. So it starts from bottom to the top, and from here it goes to the x-axis and y-axis. So whenever you're having discussions internally, this has not been created or sent it across. So that's an internally BA usually does that just to be in a smarter hands, right? Who falls under what quadrant. So you're going to create an internal doc for you where you're going to have 4 boxes and you're going to understand based upon your multiple discussion, and don't judge just because of one meeting. Although keep that in mind, who is talking about what, who is talking not about what, but have a generic understanding in your mind and try putting up people's in quadrants that, okay, if it's going to be only talking about monitoring things, I've seen some of them are really not talking, but they're just interested in listening, or they're well known about what they needs to be do. But by then, don't think like if CEO is not talking in the meeting, he's like a monitor. No, it's not a monitor. We need to first decide upon internal and external. Then we need to think about under what quadrant which guy falls in. Like Kamlesh talked about multiple things about how we gonna get it done, how we not going to get it done. So Kamlesh will be pretty much involved and will be coming under the bracket of manage closely, right? Whereas you have seen Kamra, he's like more satisfied, so he'll be coming under the bracket of keep satisfied. He's more interested in like satisfaction, everything is going on track. The moment comes in, we see Om even speaking more about it. So he is again gonna be coming under the manage closely persons. Whereas the persons who have not yet spoken up or not coming up with any questions, right? Or they are not part of the team meetings, but they are part of the meeting invites, are the persons that needs to be kept informed or put it up under a monitor. Like if we have a developer or a QA, that will be put it up in the monitor area. Whereas if there will be CEOs involved in that project, that will be persons who will be kept informed, or the persons who are there in CC of the meetings, invites, or the person who needs to be well informed. So this is how, with the power and the interest matrix, you need to identify based upon your discussions and need to put it up in these quadrants. This is how we judge people, that who will be responsible, who are asking what questions, who will be responsible for what, and how we're going to identify them. So let me show you with a more clear diagram here. So in this power and interest matrix called the PI matrix as well, so you will see the low power, the low interest, least important or the minimal effort. The persons who are putting the minimal efforts will be putting up under this bracket. Peoples with high power and low interest. Their powers are high, like the CEOs, CTOs, the chief leads manager, AVPs, AVP are the ones who will be putting it up in this bracket. Above the third bracket where we have the highest power and the higher influence. So you see, oh, the power is high, but the interest is low. But over here, power is high, even the interest is high. The guys, the key players will be put it up into these brackets, like the final stakeholders. Someone with a
So
client who's having interactions with you. And the guys, the finally comes a quadrant where we're gonna have people with low power and high interest. So their power is low, but they only want interested to know about, right? So these are like stakeholders. They're pretty much involved. The project gonna success, that's good. But my interest over it is then only I will be getting some commissions out of it if the project got success. So they don't have any influence, but they are only aware about being as they are provided at some services. Is the project gonna go well? They find it out certain interest in that they're gonna get money, or they will be asked for more sponsors. One or the other way, they are having an interest to the successfulness of project. So those guys will be part of those. Got it? So there are strategies to manage these stakeholders as well. So stakeholders with high power and high interest should be managed with utmost care. The persons that's with high power and high interest that falls under the third bracket, we need to make sure we are taking care of them very seriously. Whatever the mails they are dropping, whatever the details they are having, we need to make sure we are giving them the best of the best services. And by that, I'm not differentiating between to this guys only you need to provide them or reply them to the emails. These are the persons who are there with that utmost care. Their emails needs to be very clearly articulated, seen and discussed before replying. These are the ones who are having a high interest on the project and that's going to influence the projects as well. Where are people with stakeholders with low power needs to be kept informed. Whenever you are even dropping emails, you need to make sure whom you want this information to be circulated. These guys only needs to be informed, but this needs guys to be put it up in the two, or they needs to be highly informed about everything, whatever is going on. These one with a lower power and lower interest are like the one that least interested about project, but they are there for monitoring purpose. So you need to make sure you're having such things in your ideology, in your working culture, that who is important and who are not important, or who are only needs to be informed. Other than that, there are another ways like identifying the stakeholders' interest, who has influential, who are not, who plans the stakeholder to participate in project cycles, who comes up with emails, who comes up with documents, who comes up with building participant stakeholders commitments, developing strategies. Similarly, you can even develop in a simple matrix like stakeholder one, its name, what's its interest, and what is impact. So this simple matrix you can even create it for tracking stakeholders on individual basis if you really want, where you're going to have multiple stakeholders. Now the situation even arises, we have seen some projects where the stakeholders are like 15, 20 stakeholders are even there for such a very big project. Like financial tradings, we have around, for every portfolio we have around three managers. Like for marketing, then we have for like equity debts, right? We have multiple stakeholders. Managing them up on those bases, it's pretty important and a different task. So stakeholders, when we're going to have interest, what are their interests, what are their impacts, right? Okay, within the, if I talk about wealth management, who's going to be for the portfolio manager, who's going to be for the equity, who's going to be there for debts, what's their portfolio, are they individual portfolios, products, people's. If we have such complexity even in the stakeholders, right? Generally, if you go with a mid-sized project or small project, you're going to see like three or four stakeholders. But if you go with a very huge like project that's going to run for like 10 years, 20 years, you're going to see a lot of people will be there. On those bases, it's sometimes become very difficult to manage because either the stakeholder is playing multiple roles or he is into like multiple different activities. So tracking them based upon their interest and impact can be done using this stakeholder analysis steps as well. It's like a simple matrix. So you just need to write their name, their interest and impact. So now there is another important matrix that comes in picture that's called as the RACI matrix. So R stands for responsible, A stands for accountable, C stands for consulted, and I stands for informed. So that's the word it says the person who are responsible, the person who are accountable for the task and the products, the person who needs to be consulted for any expertise, any knowledge sharing sessions, or you need to consult them to validate information or need to check them whether you're going on the right path or you understand things right, or the person who are only needs to be informed are called Reiki metrics. So let me take you to this one. Suppose now you have these four peoples involved. Annie, Bill, Charlie, Devi. These are the four little peoples involved. We call it as Reiki metrics. Now we have categorized our deliverables, or you can say the projects, into these activities. Like, what about if you're going to have something, or you can, in simpler manner, you can say we have created this five buckets. What people fall under what bucket we need to identify. So, what the five buckets we have created is project planning, define requirements, develop actions, finalizing solutions, and end user training. So now what you're going to do is you're going to add initials in the front of their names. Talking about Annie, project planning, he's A, means he's accountable. For Bill, for project planning, he's not accountable, right? You see, we put it up as R, right? For Charlie, he's not even accountable. He's not been asked for anything, but he's in the bracket of C, right? So he is only responsible for consulting. He's not responsible for any accountability, or is either needs to be informed. He's not even responsible. He has some accountability. So means so the person who, if I need to reach out for, he's the guy that needs to be reached out for any accountability part or responsible part. Charlie, that is, even needs to be consulted. But Devi doesn't hold anything in project management planning. So even if you want to drop any specific emails around project planning, Devi doesn't needs to be involved. That's first thing. Second thing, out of these, you must be getting the reply coming in from Annie or Charlie, because Annie is accountable for and Charlie needs to be consulted. So these two peoples will be accountability, holding accountability or like consulting needs to be consulted. Whereas Bill is only responsible. If these guys are not doing it, Bill is going to help us getting it done. He's responsible. But the accountability is on Annie. So this is the guy that's when we first been asked for, or the like the Charlie's the next. He's the guy that we're looking out, and Devi is no more involved here. Similarly, like if I go with like finalizing the solution, finalize solution. Annie is accountable, Bill is responsible, Charlie is there for consulting, and Devi is only there to be informed. Now over here in this scenario, you can see it's the same replica of this, but now the Devi needs to be involved here. So solution, you will see Annie is again accountability. Charlie is again coming under responsible. See, Charlie is coming under the consulting as well. Devi is under responsible. Now you're going to add, if you're going to talk about any solutions, you're going to add Devi as well. And these guys will be responsible for helping you out with answers. This is how we differentiate things. Got it? Okay. Now, at the last, it comes as the persona of a stakeholder. What all the different personas that's been created up? What all the different end users are there? Similar motivation and behaviors of the things are there. Like persona as frictions, realizability, sense the build of the knowledge, behaviors, and characteristics of the real people. How the person is there, what's his profile, how it looks like. And you don't need to do it for all. You need to do it for the persons very specifically who are like making decision makers, who are the persons who are directly involved with the project success from the client sides. So you need to find out more about that person, more about the details, whatever you discuss based upon that, creating a picture, a characteristic real picture of that person, how the segments is divided into, what is the background, what is the persona, how it looks like, all being discussed in the persona analysis. So let me show you one diagram. So this is guy Steve. Steve is the guy that is for 47 years of age. Who is he? He's like the CEO of some company and a worth of $85 billion. What all is innovators are, right? What he finds out, how he finds us. If that CEO reaches out, or the client, I'm just taking an example of a CEO that CEOs reaches out to you, right? Or he shows interest in having a word with you. So the person who is interested in having a word, we need to find out all about him, what he thinks. Like if we talk about Alan must want to get like work with our company. Suppose we all batch mates are part of a company, and Alan must shows interest, and he asks his marketing team, "Hey, there is one of the startups there in New Jersey, right? Janbask training. I want to work with these guys. Can you help me with that?" So before, when you are handling such clients, right, you need to even make sure what is Alan Bucks is all about, right? Who is Alan? What he is part of it? How big the client is? What all we need to take care? What may be his interest prospect? What is he must be looking out for? Go to the company's website, talk about their vision, mission, think about it, their future plans, why he wants you, how he finds you, why he considered you out of many million companies. We're just a startup. What are the pain points? If he has reached out to us, there must be some pain points that he's having. What could be there? What will be there? Or what you may think will be there that he's facing in their current business. Start analyzing their current businesses. Maybe they would be having pain points and they are looking out for some solutions. What all the initiatives they have already started in, what they want to know, what it doesn't want, what they must be looking out for, and why they're going to work with us. Are we compatible enough to work with them? Any service teams that's involved. So this is how like creating a persona profile of one of the candidates or a person or a senior person or a responsible person. So just by that, you will be getting an image of that person, that what he wants, what he's responsible for, or how he wants things to be done, or what kind of expectation this guy must be having based upon like CEOs. He's free to make even decisions. So if you're going to cater them well, we may even get another million coming in because he's a big rich millionaire of 85 million euros. So you need to even understand, if we are directly talking to these guys, I think there is no approvals required for this guy. If he agrees or if it's got satisfied, he's going to straight away give us the money. Marketing teams, sales teams will be looking out, directly talking to this guy like Steve, and gonna get that built. We're gonna get huge business coming in from. So this is how you're going to create a profile of someone. It's just like a Facebook profile, if you can say it, that have limited information, but in this you're going to have multiple information. How you're going to collect it? The sources will be Google, their company website, their marketing team, their sales team, its social website, their Twitter handlers, and there are multiple other ways how you find it up. What's its social presence, what he thinks about, business insiders, certain New York Stock Exchange magazines, their interests, news portals, what this guy is all about, or what this company is all about. So this is how you need to have certain persona profile of someone. When I'm saying persona profile, I'm looking out for those information. Either that information is related to my business, either that is something that's gonna impact taking a decision of my business, or something that's he's really doing out of the box that needs to be informed or needs to be well known, because that shows his or her identity. Going forward in our next classes, you will be seeing will we even started recommending solutions to our client. So before that, your mindset should be there that what my client exactly wants, right? He's like Facebook owner, and what you are delivering them, okay, your car gonna look like that. Will it be interested? No, not at all, because he's something looking out for some social media things, right, and some social handling things, and you're pitching them something related to cars. Or he's like an IT guy and you're giving them examples of like some car manufacturing. That will not help. So you need to make sure what your client really wants, what kind of a manufacturer he is, in what business he is, what kind sort of information he must be knowing in. Do we have multiple business or he's just having single business? What's its interest part? What he loves most? What additional we can pitch in once we are done with our project? Think from that angle. Marketing, strategy, business, problem solving, solution oriented, all those angles. It's not just about one project, we need to complete one. We can even pitch it up. Hey, so we are done with this, Steve, we are done with this project. Now I've seen you are even having some interest in supercars. We have one app that's an automated app where you don't need to keyless entry in your cars will be there. You'll be getting notifications when your car need what, right? All those informations will be there. So this is an app that we use it. Do you want to integrate with us with that app? That's a really good product. This is how you're doing a cross selling as well. So make sure once you're going to have all this information, then only you can do that. If he doesn't have any interest in like aeroplanes or like aeronautics, and you are saying, hey, I'm thinking of getting into that business, well, like you must be thinking, I don't have any interest. But if you find some information or you've seen that guy doing something around aeronautics, maybe he would be. So that's gonna even help you in cross-selling, understanding customer, it's understanding gaps, what is the interest part, what is looking for, what is good about, how does business, how much money he's looking of spending in, how big the client is, all those information will be coming out from persona profiles. And this is how you're gonna even understand your clients. Got it?
Janbask Training. Learn and grow.